AITA for throwing a lake house party after my stepmom uninvited me from the family trip? My name is Claire, and I am 26 years old. When my dad called 3 weeks ago inviting me to dinner, I almost dropped my phone. We hadn't spoken in months, but there sat my dad, Robert, and my stepmom, Brenda, smiling and suggesting a family vacation at my lake house. The 7 of us. For the first time in years, I felt a glimmer of hope. For the next 2.5 weeks, I dedicated myself to the preparations. I drove 6 hours to deep clean the house. I bought new patio furniture. I planned menus. I wanted everything to be perfect. So when Dad called again last night with a tense voice asking me to come over, I thought he had simply forgotten to buy something. "We'll talk when you get here," he said. And as I drove over, that little glimmer of hope in my chest started to feel dangerously like a countdown to an explosion. I drove to his house that night, feeling a mix of nerves and optimism. Maybe they had finally realized how poorly they had treated me. Maybe Brenda had come to her senses. Dad opened the door with a big smile and actually hugged me. "Claire, you look great. Come in, come in." Brenda was in the living room and stood up when I walked in. "Hello, Claire. Thanks for coming." She seemed different. She was not exactly warm but not cold either. It was more like she was making an effort to be pleasant. I settled into the armchair across from them. "So, what did you want to talk about?" Dad and Brenda exchanged a look, and then Dad leaned forward. "We've been thinking, and we miss spending time together as a family. We know things have been tense lately, and we want to fix it." "We were hoping," Brenda added, "that maybe we could all go to your lake house for a vacation. All of us together. Me, your father, Jessica, Megan, and their fiancés. And you, of course." I blinked. "Their fiancés?" Brenda smiled radiantly. "Oh yes. Both girls got engaged this year. Jessica to Kyle and Megan to Josh. Lovely guys, you'll like them." I felt a strange mix of emotions. I was hurt that I was finding out about the engagements this way, but also genuinely excited about the idea of the vacation. "That sounds really great, honestly. When were you thinking?" "Next month," Dad said. "We could take 10 days, truly relax and reconnect." "I would love to," I said. And I meant it. Despite everything, I missed having a family. "How many people in total?" Brenda counted on her fingers. 7. "The 6 of us plus you." I nodded, already making mental plans. I would have to clean the house and stock up on supplies for that many people. My hope was so strong, especially because things had been really bad for a long time. It all went back to the beautiful lake house I inherited from my great-aunt Helen 2 years ago. The house is about a 6-hour drive from my apartment, right on the water. It is gorgeous there, the kind of place that makes you forget city stress and work deadlines. I spent countless childhood summers there with my parents when things were simpler. When Mom was still alive. Mom passed away when I was 16. Cancer took her quickly, and Dad was devastated. We both were. For a year it was just us trying to figure out how to live without her. Then Dad met Brenda at work. She seemed nice enough. A widow with 2 daughters, Jessica and Megan. Both were in college at the time and older than me, which made things weird from the start. When Dad remarried, Brenda and her daughters moved into our house. I tried to be welcoming. I really did. We were polite to each other. We had normal conversations, but there was never any real warmth. It felt like we were all playing house, pretending to be a family. What hurt the most was seeing Dad change. He started spending more and more time with Brenda and her daughters, attending their events and celebrating their achievements. I felt like I was fading into the background of my own life. When I left for college out of state, a part of me felt relieved to get away. During college, I rarely went back home. When I did, it felt like I was a guest in my own house. Brenda had redecorated everything, put up pictures of her daughters everywhere, and somehow my presence felt like an inconvenience. It wasn't obvious. She was always polite, but there were little comments here and there. "Oh, Claire, you're home again? Oh, I wasn't expecting you this weekend." Little things that made me feel like I was intruding. After graduation, I moved back home temporarily to save money for an apartment. Those few months were torture. Brenda had perfected the art of making me feel unwanted without Dad ever noticing. She would make dinner for 4 people when there were 5 of us, and then act surprised when I mentioned it. She would plan family activities and conveniently forget to tell me. Dad never seemed to notice, or if he did, he never said anything. I was so relieved when I finally saved enough to rent my own place. Moving out was like being able to breathe again. That was when I got closer to Great Aunt Helen, Mom's aunt. She lived alone in that big lake house, and I started visiting her regularly, bringing her groceries and keeping her company. She was in her late 80s and her health was failing, but she had the sharpest wit and the best stories. Those visits became the highlight of my months. When Aunt Helen passed away at 92, I organized the funeral all by myself. Dad and Brenda came, of course, but they seemed more interested in discussing the house than in mourning. A week later, the lawyer called. Aunt Helen had left everything to me, including the house and a substantial amount of money from her estate. During dinner, I told Dad I should sell it. I could use the money for a down payment on a place closer to work. Brenda jumped in before Dad could answer. Don't rush into it. That property is a gold mine. Lakefront real estate only goes up in value. Plus, we could all use it for family vacations. Dad nodded. Your stepmom is right, Claire. It's a smart investment. Keep it for now. So I did. I gave them a spare key, thinking they would use it occasionally for a weekend getaway. What I didn't expect was for them to treat it as their personal vacation home. They would go up there without asking, sometimes bringing Jessica and Megan. First, I didn't mind. They cleaned up after themselves, and I was too busy with work to use it much anyway. But then the incident that changed everything happened. The one that led to months of silence. I had taken a few days off work and driven up to the lake house for some quiet time alone. When I walked through the front door, I heard music and laughter from the back deck. Jessica was there with 6 of her friends, drinks everywhere, acting like she owned the place. When she saw me, her first words were, "What are you doing here?" As if I were the one who didn't belong. Her attitude stunned me. I could ask you the same thing. This is my house. She snapped. Well, we're having a party. You're kind of killing the vibe. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Excuse me? This is my house, Jessica. I decide who is welcome here. The tension was immediate. Her friends looked uncomfortable, and Jessica glared at me as if I had personally attacked her. The party atmosphere died down pretty quickly after that. Most of her friends left that night, and Jessica and the few who remained were gone the next morning without so much as a goodbye. That afternoon my phone rang. It was Brenda. Claire, how could you be so rude to Jessica and her friends? She was just trying to have a good time. Brenda, it's my house. I didn't even know they were there. You embarrassed her in front of her friends. You could have been more understanding. More understanding? She told me I was ruining her party in my own home. Click. Brenda hung up on me. After that, things got even colder. Dad stopped calling as much, and when he did, he seemed distant. I assumed that was how things were going to be from then on. That is why I was so surprised when Dad called 3 weeks ago out of the blue, leading to my burst of hopeful planning. I spent the next 2.5 weeks preparing. I took a weekend to go to the lake house and deep clean everything. I washed all the bedding, scrubbed the bathrooms, and vacuumed every room. I made lists of food and supplies we would need for 7 people for 10 days. I bought groceries, toiletries, sunscreen, bug spray, and everything I could think of. I even bought new outdoor furniture for the deck, and some floating toys for the lake. I wanted everything to be perfect. 3 days before we were supposed to leave, I was practically vibrating with excitement. I had taken the time off work. I had packed my bags and double-checked that I had everything ready. That was when Dad called again. Claire, could you come over tonight? Brenda and I need to discuss something with you about the vacation. I tried to sound casual. Sure. Did I forget something? I think I have everything covered. But if you need me to pick something else up, just let me know. His voice was flat. We'll talk when you get here. I drove over there wondering if maybe they wanted to chip in some money for groceries or help with the planning. I was so naive. Dad met me at the door again, but this time he couldn't look me directly in the eye. Come in, Claire. Brenda was sitting on the couch. This time she didn't get up. Her expression was completely different from 3 weeks ago. It was harder, more like the Brenda I was used to. Sit down, she said. I sat in the same armchair as before, but something felt terribly wrong. Dad sat next to Brenda, fidgeting with his hands. I tried to break the silence by pulling out my notebook. So I was thinking about the menu for our first night. I thought maybe I could make that salmon dish you used to like, Dad. Claire, Brenda interrupted. We need to talk about the vacation. I kept smiling, although it felt fragile. Okay, what about it? Brenda took a deep breath. We've decided that you aren't coming with us. I laughed. I actually laughed because I thought she was joking. What do you mean? I mean exactly what I said. You are not coming on this vacation. The smile died on my face. I don't understand. It's my house. Yes, she said. But this vacation is just for family. Real family. I felt like I had been slapped. Real family. Dad was staring at his hands and wouldn't look at me. My voice was slow and deliberate. Brenda, you invited me. 3 weeks ago. The two of you invited me. She shrugged. We changed our minds. This vacation is going to be about bonding with my daughters and their new fiancés. It's important family time, and frankly, your presence would just make things awkward. Make things awkward? I repeated, my voice rising. It is my house. We have the key, Brenda said simply. You can use the house after we're done with it. I turned to Dad. Are you seriously okay with this? He finally looked up, his face a mask of guilt. Claire, maybe it would be for the best. For the best? For the best for whom, Dad? If I just let myself get kicked out of my own house. You're being dramatic, Brenda said. We're not kicking you out of anything. We're just saying that this particular vacation is for close family. So, I'm not close family? Dad winced, but Brenda just shrugged again. You said it, not me. I sat there for a moment trying to process what was happening. 3 weeks of planning, of excitement, of hoping we could fix our relationship, all for nothing. Let me get this straight, I said quietly. You want me to let you use my house that I cleaned and stocked with food that I bought, for a family vacation I'm not invited to? Because I'm not really family. Brenda actually smiled. Now you're getting it. I looked at Dad one more time. And you're okay with this? He opened his mouth, but no words came out. That was answer enough. I stood up, grabbed my purse, and headed for the door. Enjoy your vacation. Claire, wait. Dad called out behind me, but I was already outside. Brenda's voice followed me. Don't be so dramatic about everything. I drove home shaking with rage. I sat in my apartment that night, pacing back and forth like a caged animal. My hands were literally trembling with anger. How dare they? How dare Brenda act like I was a stranger they were doing a favor for? And Dad, my God. Dad just sat there like a coward and let it happen. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. They wanted to use my house, eat my food, and sleep in my beds, all while telling me I wasn't family enough to join them. The sheer arrogance of it made my blood boil. I wasn't going to let this happen. No way. I spent the next day thinking about what to do. A part of me wanted to call Dad and yell at him, but I knew that wouldn't accomplish anything. Brenda had him wrapped around her finger, and he had proven he wouldn't stand up for me. Then I had a better idea, a much better idea. I decided to wait. I would let them think they had won, let them make their plans and get excited about their family-only vacation. And then, right when they showed up expecting to walk into my house like it was theirs, I would give them a surprise they would never forget. The next night, I was scrolling through Facebook when I saw a post from Jessica that made my jaw drop. She had written, "So excited for our family vacation next week. Finally spending quality time with the people who truly matter, without any unnecessary drama or unwanted guests. Some people just don't know when they aren't wanted." The comments were even worse. Megan had written, "Finally, just us." And Brenda had liked the post. Even Dad had liked it. That settled it. They wanted to play games? Fine, I could play too. I immediately called my friend Maya, who is always up for an adventure. Maya, remember that lake house I told you about? Want to come with me next week for a free vacation? Heck yes. What's the catch? No catch. Well, actually, there might be some drama with my family, but I'll handle that part. Drama? I'm even more interested now. What's going on? I told her the whole story, and by the end she was as furious as I was. That is awful, she said. Count me in, and I'll bring Ben and Sarah if you want more people. The more the merrier, I said. I want that house completely full when they show up. I spent the next few days contacting friends. By the end of the week, I had 6 people confirmed: Maya, Ben, Sarah, Leo, Emily, and Noah. They were all thrilled about a free vacation at the lake and totally on board with helping me give my family the reality check they deserved. The day before my family was supposedly arriving, I drove up to the lake house. I had already called a locksmith the week before and made an appointment for that afternoon. It took him 2 hours to change all the locks. I paid him in cash and pocketed my shiny new keys. Then I went inside and made myself a nice dinner. I opened a bottle of wine and sat on the deck, watching the sunset over the lake. Tomorrow was going to be interesting. I barely slept that night. I kept imagining different scenarios of how things would play out. Would they get mad, confused? Would Dad finally grow a spine and stand up to Brenda? Probably not. But a girl could hope. Around noon the next day, I heard cars pulling into the driveway. My heart started pounding. I went to the upstairs bedroom that faced the front of the house and peeked through the curtains. There were Dad and Brenda in their SUV, Jessica and Kyle in a red sedan, and Megan and Josh in a blue crossover. They were all laughing and talking, clearly in high spirits. Brenda was pointing at the house, probably telling them who would get which room. I watched them grab their bags and walk up to the front door. Brenda reached into her purse and pulled out her key. Dad was carrying a cooler, and the girls had their arms full of luggage. Brenda put the key in the lock and turned it. Nothing. She tried again, wiggling it and pushing the door. Still nothing. I could see her saying something to Dad. He put down the cooler and tried the key himself. Then they tried the back door. Same result. That was when I saw the exact moment it dawned on them. Brenda's face went from confused to furious in about 2 seconds. She started pounding on the front door. I walked down the stairs slowly, taking my time. The knocking got louder. Brenda was yelling, "Claire, open this door right now." I opened the door but left the security chain on, peeking through the crack. I said sweetly, "Hello, can I help you with something?" Brenda's face was bright red. "What did you do to the locks? Our key isn't working." "Oh, that's because I changed them," I said casually. "These are my locks now." Jessica yelled from behind Brenda, "You can't do that. We have a vacation planned." "Funny thing about that," I said, still speaking in that calm, sweet tone. "You see, last week you told me this vacation was only for real family, and since apparently I'm not real family, I figured I shouldn't let strangers into my house." Brenda made a choking sound. Dad finally spoke up. "You can't be serious, Claire. We drove 6 hours to get here." I replied, "That sounds like a you problem." Megan yelled, "This is ridiculous. We are your family." "Are you?" I asked. "Because last week Brenda made it very clear that I'm not part of your real family, so why would I let strangers use my house?" Brenda was sputtering, trying to find words. "You can't. This is..." Actually I can," I said. "It's my house. My name is on the deed. It's my decision who gets to use it." Kyle chimed in. "We already paid for this vacation. We took time off work." Dad added desperately, "We bought a new car for the trip. We don't have the money for a hotel." Again I said, "Sounds like a you problem." Brenda finally found her voice. "You are being selfish and vindictive. We are your family." "No," I said firmly. "You made it very clear that I am not your family. You can't have it both ways, Brenda." I started to close the door, but Brenda lunged forward. "You can't do this. You are ruining our entire vacation." "Goodbye," I said, and shut the door firmly, engaging the deadbolt. They stayed outside, banging and yelling for another 10 minutes. Brenda was crying about how I had ruined everything. Jessica was calling me names I won't repeat. Dad kept begging me to be reasonable. Finally, I heard their cars start up and drive away. I immediately called Maya. "Coast is clear. Come on over." "Are you serious? Did you really do it?" "I really did. And it felt amazing." By nightfall, my 6 friends had arrived, and we were having the time of our lives. We grilled burgers on the deck, swam in the lake, and stayed up late drinking and laughing. It was the best vacation I had had in years. The following week was absolutely perfect. My friends and I spent every day on the lake swimming, boating, and just enjoying ourselves. We had barbecues on the deck every night and played cards until late. I felt more relaxed than I had in years. This was what family was supposed to feel like. People who actually wanted to be around you, who enjoyed your company, who didn't make you feel like you were constantly walking on eggshells. On our last night, Maya looked out at the lake. Your family is foolish for not appreciating this place, and for not appreciating you. I ended up staying at the house for a full 2 weeks instead of the original 10 days. I had the vacation time saved up and honestly didn't want to leave. Being there reminded me why I loved the place so much, and why I had been foolish to let my family use it whenever they wanted while I barely set foot in it myself. When I finally drove back to the city, I felt like a completely different person. I was stronger and somehow more sure of myself. There was a letter waiting for me in my mailbox when I got home. My heart sank when I saw Brenda's handwriting on the envelope. I opened it, and it was exactly what I expected. 3 pages of her telling me how selfish and cruel I was, how I had ruined their entire vacation, and how disappointed she was in me. The last paragraph was the real kicker. I expect you to apologize for your childish behavior. Until you do, we will not be speaking to you. Consider yourself removed from this family. I actually laughed out loud. Removed from the family, as if that were some sort of threat. I sat down at my computer and typed a short reply email. Brenda, I am not going to apologize for anything. I have no desire to communicate with any of you anymore. Have a nice life. I sent it and immediately blocked all of their phone numbers. Dad, Brenda, Jessica, Megan, everyone. They tried calling from other numbers over the next few days, but I hung up as soon as I recognized their voices. Brenda even had a friend call me, but I hung up on her too. I was done playing their games. About a month later, I was leaving work when I saw Dad standing by my car. He looked terrible, tired, and older somehow. Claire, please, can we talk? I almost kept walking, but something in his voice made me stop. What do you want, Dad? Can we get a coffee, please? We went to a small coffee shop across from my office building. Dad ordered a coffee but didn't touch it. I ordered a tea and waited for him to speak. Finally, he said, I'm sorry. I am so sorry, Claire. I was weak and I let Brenda push you away, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life. Why now? I asked. What changed? He rubbed his face with his hands. The whole trip was a disaster. Brenda and the girls spent the entire time complaining about you, about how you had ruined everything. They were miserable and made sure I was miserable too. And I kept thinking about how wrong we were to treat you that way. You kept thinking, did Brenda tell you to come find me? Dad winced. She doesn't know I'm here. She's still furious with you. But I can't live like this anymore, Claire. I miss my daughter. I said quietly. You chose them over me time and time again. I know. And I'm asking you to give me a chance to make it right. I stirred my tea thinking. A part of me wanted to forgive him right away, but I wasn't ready for that. Too much had happened. I need time, I said finally. I'm not ready to forgive you yet. You really hurt me, Dad. You betrayed my trust. I understand, he said. Take all the time you need. And I'm not going to force a relationship with Brenda or her daughters on you. If you want a relationship with me, it's going to be just between us. He added, Brenda said she realizes she was too hard on you. I don't care what Brenda says, I interrupted. I don't believe her. And I don't want her in my life anymore. Dad looked sad but nodded. Okay, just us then. Maybe we can meet for coffee sometimes, I said. Neutral territory. See how it goes. I'd like that. We finished our coffee and when Dad hugged me goodbye, I actually hugged him back. It wasn't the same as before. There was still pain there. There was still a wall up. But it was a start. Driving home, I realized something. I felt lighter without all the family drama. I didn't have to worry about Brenda's passive-aggressive comments or walking on eggshells around my dad's new family. I could just be myself. That night I called my friend and realtor, Nicole. Remember when you said you could help me find a place to buy? Of course. Are you ready to start looking? Yes. And I have another question. Could I rent out my lake house? Like, to vacation renters? Absolutely. Lake properties are in high demand right now. You could probably get really good money for it, especially in the summer. Perfect. Send me whatever paperwork I need. I hung up, feeling excited about the future for the first time in months. I was going to buy my own place in the city, a place that was completely mine. I was going to turn the lake house into an income property instead of a source of family conflict. Over the next few weeks, I started looking at condos and small houses. I met with Dad for coffee twice, and although things were still a little awkward between us, they were improving. He was trying at least, and that meant something. Nicole found 3 families who wanted to rent the lake house for the summer. The rental income would more than cover the mortgage payments on whatever I decided to buy. One night, while looking at real estate listings on my laptop, I realized I was genuinely happy. I had good friends, a job I liked, and now I was on the path to having my own place. I didn't need my father's approval or Brenda's acceptance to have a good life. My phone buzzed with a text message from Maya. Missing the lake house. When can we go back? I smiled and typed back. Whenever you want. It's mine, remember? And for the first time since Mom passed, I felt like I truly knew what that meant. Mine. My house, my life, my choices. No one else decided what I deserved or where I belonged. I was finally free to build the life I truly wanted, and it felt amazing. Comment. Setting boundaries is one of the hardest yet most necessary acts of self-love we can practice. Sometimes the people who should protect our hearts are the ones who carelessly break our trust. I want you to remember that your worth is never defined by how others choose to treat you. You have every right to protect your peace and step away from environments that make you feel small. Choosing to walk away from negative dynamics does not make you a bad person. It simply means you are finally taking responsibility for your own happiness and mental health. True family is built on a foundation of mutual respect, genuine kindness, and unconditional support. By letting go of negativity, you make room for the people who truly value your presence. I hope this reminds you to always stand up for yourself with grace, and to build a life that feels authentic to who you are. Please take care of your heart, and never be afraid to reclaim your own story. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.